Hey everybody, how's it going? I gotta ask you, alright, how good does it feel to be at PAX East again in person? And honestly, I gotta say, we're super excited too to be sharing this conversation with you today. And we're glad that you're excited too, and really are grateful that you're here with us today so we can talk more about leveling up your conversation and marketing yourself. And let's face it, like, this last 2 years have been pretty messed up, right? And so much has changed with our lives and everything else, especially as it comes to networking and meeting new people and everything. So again, I can't thank you enough for coming out here, being part of this conversation with us as we, level up. And honestly, because of all this craziness that's happened, we're not just leveling up today, we're gonna be doing some reclassing because again, these last 2 years have been pretty messed up. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna get right into it. And first, I'm going to kick it off with some introductions and stuff. If you could lead us in that, that'd be great, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. My name's Mustafa Price. I am the producer of Indie Game Movement, which is the podcast that Andrew hosts. I am also 1/3 of Feather Fellow Games, and I'm happy to be here with all of you.
Indie games, and now I'm a freelance marketing consultant.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Sarah. I'm a corporate community developer at Focus Entertainment, and I'm super happy to be here. Hello.
Hi. Oh my God, this is the first time in my life I've needed to bring a microphone closer to me. This is a fun experience. I'm Anya Combs. I am the very recently former director of games at Kickstarter, and now I am the tabletop account manager at BackerKit. I've been in the industry 15 years. I think that makes me like the oldest dragon in the games industry at this point. But I'm so excited to be back in person at this event.
Yeah!
And I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm the founder of Rengen Marketing, providing consulting services. And also, as Mustafa mentioned, I'm the host of the Indie Game Movement podcast. And again, like everyone else here, super stoked to finally be here again at PAX. So, I should have had that slide up. So I'll give everyone a quick second if you wanted to take a quick snapshot of that, just to get our handles, reach out to us on Twitter and all that jazz. My apologies for not having it up, but why don't we just move things right along as you're taking that snapshot there of, when it gets to marketing and stuff, it's all very intimidating, so we kind of want to know, like, where do we begin? What's a good place to start at, right? So, Anya, why don't you kick it off for us in terms of what are some good ways that we can begin when we are getting to networking?
I mean, I think the first thing is, it sounds a little bit obvious, but like be genuine, be real. People, I hate when people are like, oh, I'm so-and-so, and then I'm going to pitch you on what my like company is. Like, cool, we all kind of know why we're here. So like, tell me a little bit more about yourself. Tell me something about you. I'm much more interested in getting to know you and who you are than sort of what it is that you're trying to sell me. So if that's like a fun fact of some kind, or like, oh, I saw this cool game on the show floor, or this is my first time in Boston, or this is what I had for breakfast, I don't know, whatever it is, but just like making those human connections, because at the end of the day, networking is just about relationship building. And so if you're just gonna be 100% business focused, you're not gonna be remembered in anybody's mind.
Nice. So, and how about anybody else? Mustafa, I know you have some really good ideas in terms of when it comes down to starting up with just starting regular conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I am 100% in line with that. I would say relationships first, really in all things, but I think networking too is the same kind of line of logic. And we have literally the easiest baseline conversation starter ever just by being here, literally just talking about a video game. Like, it's a good place to start. I think we all probably have that in common. So, starting with that, and then maybe even, asking people kind of intuitive questions, things that are clearly not just, simple icebreakers, but like actually trying to have some sort of meaningful conversation, I think is valuable. But that's also a balance because you have to make sure that you're not overstepping, being too personal with people you don't know. So.
I think by overstepping, some people think that they need to start off by being like the most interesting person, so they'll tell a story that maybe is a little bit too personal off the bat. So you want to keep it like really light and not go too heavy. And like Anya was saying earlier, you don't want to like start off with like, this is who I am, like this is what I do, and that can come later. And also, I think a good thing to do is compliments, but like keep it to something that they can control, like something that they're wearing or something that they're doing, and something that they would like something that can be a jumping off point instead of just saying thanks.
I think a great way to start is to go and kind of seek people that you would like to have a tea or a coffee with, like on a Sunday. Like it might sound very stupid like that, but it means that basically you're making friends. You're not just like meeting people that you're going to have a contract with or do some small business with. You're going to find those connections naturally, just by being yourself, by speaking about what you like, by sharing with other people. So I think one thing that is good to keep in mind is just like, as cheesy as it sounds, be yourself and don't pressure yourself. Like, I know it can be intimidating sometimes, you're like, oh, all those people and who am I? So don't be like that, just like talk to people because they're just people like you.
Jumping ahead here, but and I'd like to comment too, and kind of to piggyback off of Sarah's point here too. Like someone you want to have a coffee with. Now, I'll just give a quick story how Sarah and I actually met was through an introduction through someone else. We really didn't know much about each other at all, but I'll give props to Sarah, and again, right off her comment, she's like, hey, why don't we have a coffee chat? And this is all done digitally. We've never met each other before or whatever, and honestly, I wasn't thinking about any type of like virtual thing. I'd be like, hey, look, let's get to know each other digitally real quick. And then next thing you know, we're having a chat, and we realized that it was such an awesome conversation. And a lot of it wasn't necessarily even focused about the panel. We were talking about what? The weather? Because you're down south for a little bit here on the East Coast, and now you're up, and now, I mean, I'm the one complaining about how cold it is. But that conversation too, again, just something simple, like she proposed, having a coffee chat, and especially in this day and age now where everybody's like remote all the time, it was such a great and casual thing to really get started with, and I'm glad we did because I feel like now we know each other so much more from a short 30-minute conversation than we did just from a few Twitter direct messages. So, and on that topic too, like, and as I mentioned before, the reclassing, like, how do we go about like reclassing here? Because, and what I mean specifically is, how do we get better at networking and meeting new people, considering this changed landscape? Because, like I said, things got messed up, COVID hit, everybody's like remote. How does this change how we're typically used to networking at events like PAX or let's say other events or whatever the case may be? So, Sarah, what are some other ideas that you think that would be really helpful with this changed climate now trying to interact with each other and meet new people?
As you said, the coffee chat is a good idea. You have to keep in mind though that, I think a lot of us had to work from home for a long time, and there are some people out there who are tired of like Skypes and Zooms and things like that. So just like, if you're into that, just go for a coffee chat or ask them if they prefer something else, if they prefer a call, if they prefer just like some, Discord chat and then playing a game together. Like, it can be very, laid back. You don't have to just go to someone, give them their business card and be like, okay, I hope you remember me and I hope this business card doesn't get lost in the whatever business card you're receiving today. I think just like approach it the way you would like to be approached, in a sense. because it makes things way easier, and be mindful of the person you're interacting with. I also think there was something very interesting for me that I actually talked with you about. It was the idea of like cultural differences and things like that. I don't know about everyone, but like I feel like we're able to connect with everyone. Like we are able to connect with the industry in North America, in Europe, in Asia, in Middle East, in Africa, and sometimes it can be hard, like knowing where to draw the line just because of cultural differences. Am I polite right now, or am I being too much, like for them? And you're not aware of all of those changes. So that's something that I did, especially like for North American market. Something that can be interesting for you if you're interacting with people from other like area of the world is to check what's polite, what's impolite, what's too much, what's, you know. I didn't know that like you shouldn't kiss people on the cheeks before that, you know. I really thought like everyone around the world, you know, to say hello, you just kiss each other on the cheeks. That's not a thing here apparently. So yeah, just be mindful of all of those things. There are even like things that the way you present things can make an impact, and definitely someone will be aware that you're trying to make an effort for them. So yeah, reclassing definitely, and being aware of the other person, like views and their limits and what they like, those type of things.
Learning what people's boundaries are, just in the sense that like boundaries have become such a huge part of our world, whether it's for COVID safety or just learning what your personal boundaries are. And so I think that we've sort of really been ingrained, like we don't, kissing on the cheek isn't really a thing in the US, but like hugging is now something that you sort of have to ask permission for, which you always had to ask for permission for, quite frankly. But I think that we sort of know that now, so obviously if it's like, this is a close friend and we're so excited to see each other, but I think the easiest way to sort of get around that, so to say, that I found is just like, do you want an elbow bump or a fist bump, right? Because it's sort of about everybody's like personal limit there. That's also a great sort of like unspoken way to sort of say to somebody, hey, I'm just asking what your boundaries are in terms of like physical interaction and understanding what that is with people. I personally am done with Zoom. I would like to never use Zoom again. I hate it so much. Is anyone from Zoom in this room? Because I'm so sorry. Oh no! Okay. I'm like, your product is garbage. Just kidding, it's great, but I also hate it. So I can't, if somebody is like, oh, I'd love to do just like a Zoom call with coffee, it's an immediate no for me. And it's not because of anything that you've done, again, it's boundaries. I can't watch somebody's face on a screen. I'm done, I can't do it. And I know that about myself, and that's an important thing to know, right? So what's an alternative to that? Everybody in the games industry is on Twitter. I am more likely to engage in a conversation on Twitter, or if you want to exchange like Discord information, that is so much easier to me personally than sitting on Zoom. And that's so much easier than like doing the business card thing, because I have like from the three different jobs that I've had like over the past 15 years, business card graveyards. Couldn't tell you a single thing about somebody I met 10 years ago who would then email me and be like, oh, you're a backer kit now, and I'm like, who are you, right? So like being able to put faces to names and things like that, it's not actually through Zoom calls that I remember things, and this is different for everybody, right? You have to kind of figure out what works for you. It's through like, oh, we had that conversation on Twitter, I learned this thing about them, great, done, that's ingrained in my brain for the rest of my life.
Oh my God, I agree with her. Like for example, I'm not Tanya. I visited her. I know she plays sax. I know she has a dog. If you want to like get to know people, I think Twitter and Discord is better because like what you said with Zoom. I think a lot of times we're so sick of being at a computer, and so we want to keep meetings as short as possible, especially since we have more meetings. So you end up having things that are straight to the point or a little bit superficial. So I think this is a great opportunity to have like maybe a little bit deeper conversations and the kind of magic that you have when you see people in person versus like just over online meetings. Because yeah, it's a different context. And I just want to say too, like, it's kind of intimidating. I know a lot of people that are new to the industry shifted around so much. So even though, like the previous question, it is intimidating, but we all start somewhere. Like no one's good at talking or networking or having those conversations, knowing what questions to ask. But you got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid, which is easier said than done in a lot of cases, but just get out there and start talking to people.
This industry is also small.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, and like we as, I think all of us here, and I don't want to like take over this conversation, but all of us here are industry vets. If you're I'm trying to watch my language. If you're a poo-poo head, we're gonna find out. And we don't want poo-poo heads in this industry, so you're gonna get blacklisted. It's as simple as that. And we all look out for each other, and we'll vouch for people, and we'll tell people quietly, like, not don't work with them for whatever reason. So if you're like young and you're scared and you're like, oh, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not really sure what to do, like you can reach out. Like, I'm amazed at how many panels I've done where I'm like, no, come reach out to me, it's all good. And then like 3 weeks later, somebody's like, oh, I was just really scared to talk to you for whatever reason. I'm like, I literally said reach out to me, it's all good.
The only difference up here compared to you guys down there is literally chairs and a microphone. Like, it just, like Anya said, don't be afraid, reach out. And that's with anybody.
I like do a lot of consultations with clients, and they're always like, "Oh my God, I love this developer. I love what they did in this game." And I say, DM them on Twitter. Are their DMs open? Go start this conversation. Just introduce yourself. Say why you have a specific question for them. Don't just say hi. You know, they're just gonna ignore it. Be like, "Hi, I'm so and so. I'm making a game that's similar to yours. How did you do X, Y, and Z?" And they'll be like, a lot of people love to help. They like to feel like they're contributing something.
Yeah, I would say too, like, it all kind of comes full circle back to the subject of authenticity, right? Because, like, if you are coming from a genuinely good and honest place, and that is conveyed through not only the things that you say, but also things like respecting individuals' boundaries, asking questions about boundaries to make sure you're not overstepping, things like that. I think that's going to come through a lot louder and clearer than any potential fumble you might make in what you're trying to say. You know, so try, I think, the most important thing, in my opinion, initially is to make sure that your intentions are right when you're initiating a conversation. You know, like, I think with everything that has caused us to need to reclass, I think we're all kind of in need of a little bit of extra empathy and patience, and so just having that at the forefront, I think, is going to help you a lot more in the long run.
And, you know, I'm glad you're bringing that up too, because it kind of leads into this other question too, is like, how do we know, like, these types of things, having intent, being genuine, all these other things, how do we know this stuff kind of works, right? I mean, because that's ultimately what we're saying here, but how do we know that works? How do we know that's either going to get us to the next position where we might have an opportunity for something business related, or how does that even mean that's going to lead me to getting into that next game group? So what are some ways that we can, you know, insights or whatever that we can get that from either your personal experiences or whatever, and how we know this stuff works?
I mean, I think patience is one of the best lessons to learn with networking, just in the sense of, like, you kind of never know where things are going to come from. And so if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know, let's just say that you're like, I met someone from Epic and I know that they have a job opening and this seems like such a great opportunity. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to work for a lot of different reasons. But if you continue to, like, forge that relationship, that might end up working out to be something, like, in the future. You kind of never know. And again, it's really just about, like, being authentic, being genuine, and making those connections and things like that. I think the other thing is, like, I think people tend to, like, network up. So they're always looking, like, at that aspirational networking, right? Where it's like, oh, this person, I'm here for, you know, all of this is relative, but I'm here and this person is here. I need to continue to network up. But networking within people that are sort of in the same space that you are, because someone's either gonna, you know, their star is gonna rise for whatever reason. Networking within your peer group is incredibly important, because those are the people that become sort of your community that you're able to grow and build with.
I completely agree. I want to add on to what you said. I talk to a lot of successful developers, and I'm like, how do you get these collaborations? Where did you find this person? And they're like, oh, I knew them from 10 years ago. And so that let me know. It's just like I have to talk to people like right now. I can't just wait around until I have something to say to people sometimes. And also like not having an agenda and being chill. I want to tell a story. When I was at E3, they had a Twitch partner lounge, and I saw John Romero, Doom. He was on stage, and I was like, oh my god, So I calmed down, he got off stage, and I just approached him and just explained who I was. And like my opener was the fact that he had done an interview with somebody else in my company, so he knew of my company, and I had like a lovely conversation with him, and he just really wanted to talk about Ireland and his family. And so I didn't try to push the conversation in any way, but I knew I just wanted to meet him. I wasn't trying to work with John, I just wanted to say hello. Yeah, but I agree with Anya that it's much better to work with somebody in your own level and grow with them and support each other, and not just like try to take what you can from other people.
I think there's also a lot to be said about like how do you frame like a successful outcome? Like it's not strictly I got a job offer, my dream job, right? I think there's a lot to be said for the value of just knowing, hey, like there are kind-hearted people in this industry who are really cool to know that I know I can reach out to and ask questions and discuss things. And I think that's valuable in its own right. I think a lot of the conversations that like Andrew and I have had over the course of doing indie game movement gave me a lot of tools that empowered me to kind of work with my own team and build our own projects out. So, I mean, even just like having people in your circle that you can talk to who are going to be kind and respectful and can relate to, kind of what you're embarking on, I think that's a form of success in its own right, and valuing that is a great way to kind of measure those touch points.
So I want to shift things real quick here and talk about avoiding disasters. I'm going to have Mustafa kick off on this too, because he's also wearing the space helmet.
No, I'm wearing the shirt for Space Jam too, because we must remember history so we don't repeat our mistakes. Kind of tie it back, right? I think a lot of the way that people felt about that movie was informed by the fact that they felt like they were being advertised to the whole time. And people don't like being sold things. We like buying things, but we don't like being sold things. So, if you consider the fact that you get angry if you're watching a YouTube video and it gets interrupted with an ad, I think you can see how that would translate to a conversation where somebody feels like they're gelling with you and then all of a sudden you've switched into an ad. So, it's kind of back to, once again, being authentic, be true to the conversation, be mindful and present in that moment. Check your agenda at the door. I think that's a key way to avoid, making a bad impression, because that's ultimately what matters, is making a good impression and making a strong relationship. So.
I think something that can be useful as well is to try to relax. I feel like there are way too many people out there who pressure themselves. They're like, oh, I can't talk to this person. They have, I don't know how many followers. I can't talk to that person. They have this job at this publisher or this studio. Something that is very useful is to see past that. Of course, you're going to meet some of these people who are going to be like, okay, I don't have time for you. And you have to accept it, that they're not the right person for you right now. But there are so many other people who are like super looking forward to meeting you. I think it's really something that everyone should keep in mind. Connect with people of all levels. You were saying something super interesting is that people tend to go up. There are also people down. Like there are also people who are just starting out. There are people who are students who are even just looking at the industry and thinking maybe. And these are interesting people as well. So as you go up you will go up. Don't forget that there are people out there who are also looking towards you, and you're not even aware of it because maybe you're looking in the other direction. So I think that's a cool thing to remember, to avoid like just networking like with people that are seen as like super successful, super wealthy or whatever. Everyone has super cool thing to say, everyone is interesting, but it's your job to choose the people that you think are super cool and that you can have like, you know, you can see at PAX next time you come and be like, hey, let's go have that hot pot that you were talking about, you know, things like that. So don't forget about that. And I think something very, very interesting if you're like networking, like if you're thinking about going towards this industry, but in another country, is to look into how this country works and how that industry works in that country. Like even Europe, like the difference between Europe and North America, there's so many of them. So if you're thinking about maybe going to Europe or maybe going to Asia, it's a good thing to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have much to add what everyone is saying here. I think it's all very insightful. Star said something that now I can't remember, but it was something brilliant, and now I don't remember, so I don't know why I brought it up. I'm sorry. This is what Zoom brain has done to me.
It was good though.
I like genuinely forgot how to person. I think, you know, if we're talking about pitfalls, did you get it? This is a terrible joke, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Man, it's just like, LeBron's never going to be Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's maybe there's like a metaphor there to think about, like, am I LeBroning or am I Michael Jordan? I don't know. But, you know, so I think one of the things to keep in mind is that we are all people, regardless of where you are in the industry, regardless of how long you've been in the industry, all of this, none of this really matters. Like, we're all people, we all have complex stories, we all have, you know, things that have happened to us that have been really good and really bad. And some people are a little bit more willing to sort of talk about that than others. That is a personal choice, that is great, that is fantastic, that is the cool, wonderful makeup of human beings, right? And so at the end of the day, the person that you're talking to is a human being. Mm-hmm. So if for whatever reason they're also having an off day, I think it's important to also give them that grace. So it could be something happened. Maybe they found out a family member got sick. You know, there's 100 different things that could be happening. But the other thing to keep in mind too is that for some reason, this industry has a lot of people that have severe anxiety, myself included. And I think that's something sometimes that you can connect with people on, but I also think it's something to keep in mind that, like, if you're feeling anxious for whatever reason, I think it's okay to call that out in a meeting. Like, I actually think that humanizes everybody a little bit, just like, I'm really excited to meet you, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm a little bit anxious. Cool, that's all good. We all feel that. It's like not a problem. I also think one of the things to keep in mind is, this is a little shady. It's not though. Sorry for contradicting myself. Someone's Twitter follower count doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, like that doesn't really mean that they're important in the industry. It just means that they might be good at the internet or that they've like bought a bunch of bots. Like truly, I know people that have done this that are like, oh yeah, I have like 11,000 followers. I bought them, and I was like, that's okay. But like that doesn't necessarily denote their accolades in the industry. So like if somebody's like super popular on Twitter, I would encourage you to sort of look at that and say, what are they actually doing and what's their resume that's attached to that, right? Because there's people on Twitter that have like 40 followers, but they're huge in the industry. So I think this kind of goes along with that aspirational thing where we see metrics tied to people, these like completely unnecessary metrics versus work, pedigree, and the games that are actually attached to them. Those things are so much more important than if somebody's like popular on Twitter or not.
And I'd like to piggyback of what Ani was saying too, because like those are a lot of really great specific examples too, to give you a bigger picture of essentially is, and something that like Mustafa and I talk a lot about on the show, which is basically practicing empathy and having empathy. Because everything that Ani was saying, it could be like someone could have an off day, someone could be doing something for a reason, whether they have a big Twitter follower account or not. There's numerous reasons that we'll never begin to fully understand, and nor should we. But understanding that lots of people do things lots of different ways, or might have certain feelings about that, and sometimes it's hard to overcome, because a lot of times we enter these conversations and everything else with the idea of, with the focus, and understandably so, on us. And that's perfectly fine, but when you don't practice empathy, that's when you start feeling frustrated. That's when you can start feeling potentially anxious. Whereas maybe someone's not responding to you because they're helping out with their family, they're doing something with their kids or whatever. There's any number of reasons. And when you lead into things without empathy or just having a casual understanding like, hey, for whatever reason, they can't get back to me, and that's cool. And plus, the example you talk about, like being anxious and like calling out to that is great, because you don't know if you did someone else a favor. They could have been like, after, like they might not have come up to you and been like, you know what, I was feeling the same exact way, and I'm so happy you said that because I felt so much better. It's like just by practicing empathy and being genuine and clear and stuff can really help out with other people too, and you don't even realize that or anticipate that happening.
I have one more. I'm surprised no one on the panel's mentioned this yet. Maybe I shouldn't say this. There's something in the industry we like to call an armchair developer. And, oh my God. Sometimes you read something on Reddit, a YouTuber says something, and they're like, this is why this company does this. Or this is the intentions of what they wanted to do. And they're just making it up. And to a developer, that's really obnoxious, because it's like, no, I made this game, I work at this company, and that is not true. So when you're talking to people in the industry, don't assume you know what their job is or why they did a certain thing in their game, or don't tell them like what they need to do to improve their game, right? And guess like they can't really do much most of the time anyways. It's the decisions of people that's not up to them. So I just wanted to point that out. Don't be an armchair developer. Like when you want to say something about a game, like ask them the question, like, do you think this is the reason X, Y, and Z? And this is from my personal experience. Yeah, I've done it before.
This happened to our friend Osama recently.
Yes.
Yeah, Osama, I don't know if y'all know Osama. Osama's a wonderful human being, and Osama was playing Elden Ring because he's allowed to play Elden Ring. And somebody emailed him and was like, oh, and he tweeted out like, oh, I finally beat Elden Ring, I'm so excited. And somebody emailed him, oh, so you can finish Elden Ring, but you can't answer my email? So like, don't do that. Like there's a good example of like, again, if you're gonna be a poo-poo head, don't be a poo-poo head, we'll find out. Like, don't do that, I would say.
I'm sorry, I can't believe that somebody called him out on that.
Yeah, well, and Osama being the sweet, gentle giant that he is, he tweeted about it, but like wouldn't name the person, and I was like, I mean, that's kind of all you need to say.
And, I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because let's say that a situation like that, you're in the middle of something and someone is, you know, blatantly being a poo-poo head.
Can we just make poo-poo head a thing now? Like, I feel like that's
it's a
It's an industry standard term. Make sure you write that down.
But still, the way he handled it was still like, you know, very professionally, and still, that's another thing, just like, goes into a little bit different territory, but still, like, calling out to other people's actions and stuff, and maybe just saying, hey, I'm going to be disrespectful. I mean, I'm not going to be disrespectful by calling him out and everything and ostracizing that person, but still, you know, what he did was a right thing to do. But still, again, don't do that. That was not cool. Just for whatever reason, and maybe that person was frustrated that they weren't being communicated with or talked to. But again, it's like, hey, we all have lives. Sometimes, like, we just need to play a little Elden Ring or whatever your game is, and have that to ourselves, and that's okay. Because on the flip side of that, you might feel that your doing other people disservice and you take things away from yourself, but that isn't good either, regardless of what capacity it is. And I think it goes back to what you were saying too, Anya, about being so hard on yourself. It's not good to do that, and that's like another poor habit on being so hard on yourself, and that's what can create a lot of that anxiety and other things that happen in this industry. Do you have any other pitfalls, Mustafa? You love lessons learned.
I do love lessons learned. The only thing I would add is to what Star was saying about armchair developers. I think it extends in a broader sense to just unsolicited feedback or advice of any kind. Really just kind of wait till you're asked for that.
That's a huge pet peeve, because it serves that person, it doesn't serve the person you're talking to. You're not actually helping them, you're just feeding your own ego.
We had a really good episode back in February with Greg from Supergiant, and he had this really awesome whole thing about how feedback in and of itself is by nature very contextual and not universally applicable in any way. So you gotta kind of pick and choose and consider the source. And it's like if you don't have the full context of something, any feedback you're giving is not based in the reality of what's actually being created. So yeah, wait till you're asked typically.
All right, we talked a lot about disasters here, and I think we got that covered. So how about some action items? So what are some things that we can start doing now, right here at PAX and even beyond, from this conversation that we've been having?
Why did you choose this picture? I'm curious.
Because what can't you do once you get the...
Well, because that's the first.
I haven't played.
That's the first
to this
action.
point in the game yet.
Actually.
My son killed my game 3 times. I'm like, that's it. Breath of the Wild. We're not doing this anymore. I'm sorry. So, what weapon is that, Mustafa? Because I'm sounding pretty, but you know what? I'm being honest and genuine here. I have no idea what that is, but you called out. I did the Google search. It came up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's the Master Sword from.
Right, Master Sword. What can you do?
What a shift from Space Jam to Breath of the Wild.
I'm just trying to make my dream fanfic out of the slide deck, okay?
So what can you start doing now? God, it's such a hard question. I what I tell my clients is DM them, say who you are, what your intentions are, and then ask that specific question. But also the compliments, and something that they're choosing to do with themselves, like something that they're wearing or something that they said that you thought was interesting. And yeah, make it something that's not just, they're just not going to say yes or no, that they have to maybe think about it a little bit. Yeah, also I like, maybe this is a little weird, but having a little bit of mystery, not just putting it all out on the table right away, giving them a chance to answer back. And also this is going to sound weird too, but being a little fearless, when I just rocked, right up to John Romero, and I'm like, you don't know who I am, but hello. I didn't say it like that. Also, bonus, when I got back to this is at E3, when I got back to my booth at E3, someone's like, there's something there, and I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, there's something in your teeth. And so I checked, and there was something in my teeth, so the entire time I talked to him, he did not say a word to me about this. Yeah, at least I'm memorable, hopefully. So don't do that. Don't start that.
That's just straight up not a true homie. True homies will tell you if you've got something in your teeth. My partner says this to me all the time. He's like, only your real friends will tell you.
Yes.
What can you do now? Well, part of it is if you're here for the 4 days or not. I was going to say, I have the privilege of being able to do all 4 days because I'm required to do all 4 days in advance, and I've always been able to do that. But I would say, I like to look at it as if you can do the 4 days, I like to look at it in sort of spurts. So the first day is just get a lay of the land. It's calm, it's pretty chill, cool. I know where the tabletop section is, I know where the video game section is. I'm going to make some mental notes if I want to make sure I go to that booth. I want to make sure I go to talk to those people, whatever it is. And then, go to a couple panels and stuff like that. The second day, I'll pick tabletop or video games and just go to the tabletop section and just start talking to people and, maybe taking a couple business cards, buy some things, have those conversations. Third day, I'll do video games and just do, you know, all the video game networking. Again, play some games if I can, talk to people, take business cards, stuff like that. Personally, my favorite day of PAX is Sunday because it's like unofficial kids day. And it's just an absolute delight to watch kids play games because for the most part, they are so much better than adults. I've seen some of the most incredible interactions with like kids who don't know each other. And oh my gosh, I'm sorry, this is like totally random, but like, oh, I saw these kids one time playing a game and one of the kids was looking around and he saw that all these other kids were waiting to play the game and he was like, oh, do you want to play? And like was just offering the console to all these other kids because he was like, I've been playing the game for a long time. All these other kids want to play the game too. Very sweet. And I was like, you sweet summer child. Don't ever grow up. But Sunday, quite frankly, everybody's pretty exhausted, especially if you're like an exhibitor. That's actually the best time to talk to people and like get all the stuff that you want. Get all the free stuff on Sunday, by the way. That's the key because nobody wants to actually like go home with all the junk that you brought. But that's when people are like pretty tired, and not that you should like talk to people when they're just like vulnerable and exhausted, but like that's when everybody kind of has figured out what's going on. It's like a little bit chill. It's much calmer on a Sunday. So like take the 3 days to sort of figure out like what exactly am I trying to get out of the show? Who exactly am I trying to talk to? Start those conversations, and then essentially your Sunday is the follow-up day, just to be like, this was such a great show, it was so great to meet you. Let's connect, you know, what's your preferred way of connecting? Man, when people tell me LinkedIn, I'm like, who are you? Like, what? LinkedIn? What in the world? It's just, yeah, anyway. So that would be my random recommendation.
I think you should totally go up to people that you want to connect with. If they're at PAX and you're at PAX, like that's the perfect moment to just go up to someone and say, hi, hey there. I think you just have to keep in mind that if someone is an exhibitor, sometimes they can be very like busy and sometimes they have a schedule and things like that. So if that's the case, just like ask them, as you said, if it's okay to meet up at some point during the next day, or even if let's say you're not at PAX anymore tomorrow, but you're still in Boston. Is there a way we can meet up at some point, just like outside of PAX or something like that? Something that is doable for like everyone involved. And if you're not, like, I'm thinking about the people who might watch this later if you weren't at PAX. I think a great thing to keep in mind is that I'm talking mostly about what I know, which is like video games. There are a lot of like cool online communities in games. Like there are so many. I really encourage anyone that is looking for like other devs, other people in like game marketing to connect with like online communities through Discord or even like they're all very active on Twitter, so that's a great way to find them. And they all have like a Discord where they all exchange. They all have like coffee chat. They have gaming nights. There's things where you can totally go and meet people online. If you're like, let's say if you don't want to meet people like today and you just want to buy your merch and play your game, like that's something that you can do as well.
I just want to add to something that both Star and Sarah just mentioned too, especially if you're going around to, whether it's talking to other exhibitors or just, people in general, but especially exhibitors, going up to them and just being very clear with what you want to talk to them about. It will do two things. It's going to save them time, it will save you time, and then you can get a quick answer. If they say, hey look, I don't have time right now, why don't you swing by the booth later, so be it. But if you use courteous respect and be insightful in terms of what you're really looking and specifically to ask them about, it not only helps save time, it's probably going to make you more memorable. So let's say you didn't have that opportunity to meet up with them or talk to them at PAX. When you shoot that email and say that you remember them from the event and that you try to talk about this specific question, they're going to recall that. They're going to be very grateful, and they are more likely to give you much more attention than potentially someone else because you used discretion, you went in with intent, and you were kind and courteous. That means a lot to these people, whoever you're talking to. So another great way to get started, and if it doesn't work out here, you can easily take it beyond and most likely get, start up a great, potentially relationship from that.
Also, like you shared our Twitters earlier, so you can always contact us too afterwards if you wanted to, if you have any specific questions, if this is like intimidating for you or anything like that. Like we're all open to having conversations.
Absolutely. And then also I would add, I believe to what was said earlier in reference to, kind of networking among your peers as well, I would say this is presumably a room full of people who have some interest in networking, so that probably includes with each other, so, it might be good to kind of strike up conversation. You never know, what talents people have that might complement yours, if you're, maybe even a solo dev just kind of looking for some people, for a project or anything. Any reason to kind of, start up that conversation. You never know what talent's right next to you.
Some people in this industry they always wait around for things to happen to them, for them to get those opportunities. And that just probably won't happen. So if you want something, you're going to have to go get it yourself. Like you're going to have to take that initiative.
Yeah, and Star, that's perfect because it's we got some time, but seriously, go now, introduce yourself, get out there and get started. Make things happen now because they're not going to happen if you don't. Thank you everybody for coming here today, and we'd like
It looks like we have the mic right here.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so you guys were talking about pitfalls and boundaries and whatnot, and I apologize if I forget your name.
Me?
No, the one next to you.
Sarah.
Sarah, I apologize, but so I have autism, and boundaries are a thing, but they are very, very unclear. So when it came to you coming to America, coming over here and realizing, hold on. How did it feel? Well, this is for you and then for the entire panel. For you, how did it feel to come over here and realize that, oh crap, that's not a cultural norm? And then when it comes to the rest of you, how does it, with boundaries, how does it feel to address those that aren't being poo-poo heads per se, but just don't really, that approach that reach the boundary, but not in a poo-poo head way?
For me, especially, literally said, coming to the US was my first time, so I was like, oh, I'm French. I'm not very aware. Please take it into account and tell me when I'm doing things that are like, what is going on? So I guess on this side that was a bit easier for me because I can just stay where I'm from and people are okay, it's not calling me out, very more giving me advice on what to do. And to be honest, I'm quite frank about it. I just go, what's the thing that works the best for you? For example, when I was talking about the Zoom, you ate, I would have blamed you and be do you want to have a call or do you want to just write, just text? I think you don't necessarily have to go to someone and be I don't know what to do right now. But you can just ask him question, just use the question to help you give you clues on what they like, what they think. It can be a great way also to open the conversation.
And I would say real quick too, sometimes just being straightforward. Let's say if you're just having a conversation and it's either a topic or it's in person and they're getting too close, just be matter of fact, be hey look, I like this conversation we're having, but I don't necessarily like this particular topic. Do you mind if we change it? And yes, it can be hard, but just be sincere and honest about it too, so you're not coming off as you don't like them or anything like that. It's just, no, I just like to maybe talk more about this, or hey, do you mind if we just step back a little bit? I just feel a little bit more comfortable, but no, I still want to have this conversation. And just make it clear that you want to talk to them still, but you're just more comfortable with whatever that instance is.
I think we should move on to the next
Yes.
question.
Hi. I'm just wondering if there were any specific tips on kind of continuing conversation from like a Twitter DM. Say like I have a question for someone specifically. I say like, "Hi, I really like this about your work, and I have this question," and they give an answer, and it's great. But I also want to kind of keep up that connection. Is there a way that you're using to do that?
I mean, you can always interact on Twitter itself. Oh, I think you dropped your D20. But you don't want to lose that. That's a big one. Yeah, what did it land on?
It's a stress D20, so.
I mean, Twitter it's a social media platform, so even if you just want to like respond, I mean, wait, that's a balance thing where I've said this and then suddenly somebody responds to everything that I tweet, and I was like, this is a lot. So I think if something resonates with you, that's really fine. And also, like, if something resonates with you that somebody tweets out that you've had an interaction with that you don't necessarily want to put in the public space, I think it's okay to DM them too. And then also, I think it's okay to also just say that. Like, look, I think you're really interesting. I think you're really cool. I'd love to continue this conversation. Is this your preferred way to do that?
How's it going?
Good afternoon. So my question was kind of similar to his, but the situations are a little different. So I guess to give context, so on LinkedIn, I reached out to someone and I asked them for a coffee chat. They didn't respond, which I completely understand that. You're not going to exactly what you said. So in that situation, can you give me an example of how to ask for a coffee chat? Now that I know this boundary information of like, okay, not everyone's gonna want to hop on a Zoom call, but it seems kind of weird, like hitting up someone through LinkedIn, like, can I get your Twitter so I can DM you? Like, how exactly, like, can you give me an example of now knowing that information? Of, they might not even want to do, like, if I would have said something else to him, he probably would have had.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was the context for this? Is this game industry or what was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will, like Anya said before, most of us are on Discord and Twitter. So LinkedIn, we're like, oh, it's there for finding jobs or whatever. But unless you're like a CEO, corporate, like that kind of person, a lot of us don't check it. I don't check my LinkedIn messages, and I literally tell them, like, even on my website, it says, please DM me on Twitter. Like, you go to starletsguys.com. So you should check there. But also, like, vibe check too. Just like, some people just don't want to talk to you. Like, sometimes they get really busy. So if I were you, I would talk to other people and then come back around, or ask them something like very specific of like, this is, if we were to do a coffee chat, this is the kind of things I would like to talk to you about. Like yesterday I met somebody from the New York game scene, and I'm just really interested in the New York game scene. So things like that.
So try and stay in the Twitter space if trying to network first. Okay. And then also be very specific in what you're asking. If you reach out to him on LinkedIn and ask that, because on LinkedIn you only get 300 words, which is very short, to try to do a warm, cold intro to someone. That's like very short.
People want to talk to people, they don't want to talk to robots. We're all sick of bots, and so that's when we think of LinkedIn, that's what we think of as developers.
Real quick, I want to add to a point that Star made earlier today, being our example with Sarah and I, how we met. It wasn't a direct thing. We didn't have a direct coffee chat. I probably would have maybe said no, sorry, if it was that direct. But the reality is sometimes even just doing basic engagement, like if they're posting some content or whatever, or you're like little engagements here and there, and you're just kind of warming up to them. It's more long tail, will maybe take a little bit longer, but at least they get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, drop a pebble on a rock.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Hi, how are you?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I have this weird, I don't know exactly what to call it. I guess I would call it like the extrovert demon just pulling out of my body every time I go to a convention, and in the second I leave, it just goes back in. So I'll like make a really cool connection with someone, like, okay, cool, let's keep up on like Twitter or Discord or whatever. I'll get their information, and then I immediately black out the second I get out of the phone with bother. So what would you recommend for trying to like, keep a connection that you've already started?
Well, it sounds like you didn't make a connection if it's already like out of your mind. You know what I mean? Like it's a fleeting thing. I mean, I think my recommendation is if you've met like 10 people and you're like, I met all these people, pick 2 and see if you can keep those up. Start small.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Hi, so for context, I'm the esports coordinator for my college, and I've avoided Twitter for the last like 15 years because I hate it. But I know that that's where esports lives. So I'm used to Facebook, where here's all of my friends, and if I post a picture of my cat, my friends are like, hey, I love your cat, blah, 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 and then some random schmuck I don't know says, oh, I love your cat. That's weird. On Twitter, is that how you build connections with people? Is the random person that comments every once in a while and follows and then slowly grow in? Because I don't know how to make connections on Twitter without coming across as a weird, creepy person that you don't know.
It's all about priorities, you know, like I tell people, they're like, I hate Twitter. I'm just like, well, that is where journalists are. That's where content creators are. That's where developers are. That's where studios are. They're not on Instagram and Facebook a lot of the time. I know because I run a community manager Discord, and they tell me directly how much they hate working with Facebook. And so since they're all kind of in that one place, you kind of have to put your personal opinions aside and push through that because if you want to be successful in whatever you do, you're going to have to learn to get uncomfortable. The most successful people I know jump right in and they just try new things. So I wouldn't worry about coming off as creepy as long as, like what he was saying earlier, you're genuine and authentic. You love esports. This is like what you're trying to do here. Look at other teams and what they're doing, and like start conversations. And what you were saying earlier, I think the word insightful is really important. So just don't be like, "Hi, I like esports." Like say something more than that gets people wanting to have a conversation with you.
And if I could piggyback on that, because we do a lot of our guest curating for the show via Twitter, I understand it is like kind of a nightmare place a lot of the time, but what's really, really important is that for the same reason you'd be networking, because you want to strike certain connections, curate your experience as much as you possibly can. Because I think where it kind of gets out of control for people is that we sometimes get random stuff in our face that's intended to make us upset. Try and keep as much control of your kind of funnel communication in that space as you can, and I think that will help it be slightly less terrible.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for just like 2 more quick questions.
All right. Hi everyone. It's great. Like this panel was amazing. Just thank you for that. I'd like to ask all of you. Like I'm just like getting started, like getting into the games industry. Haven't done anything into it, and just the past few months have been like a lot of cold calling, which isn't super successful. So I just like to hear from you guys. Like if you just have any tips on like getting into the game industry, like which connections should we make, and just sort of that general advice.
Really quick, I know we have to have the other panel come in, but I asked them before if we could like step out to the hall. So if you guys do have more questions or want to connect, like we can do the hallway.
What is it that you want to do in the industry?
Yeah.
So I'm actually working on an indie platform.
Sorry, more?
I'm working on an indie platform.
Oh, indie platform.
Yeah.
Reach out to Itch. Go talk to Spencer. Go talk to Leaf. Find out who the people are that have. First of all, don't ever look at anybody in this industry as a competitor. That's a terrible mindset. Not that you're doing that. But what are the other indie platforms? Who are the people that work them? Who are the people that work for them? Who are the people that built them? Those are the people you want to be reaching out to.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you.
And one more.
First off, thank you guys. So I also work in the collegiate esports scene, and I've got about 30 interns. And part of my job as a staff member at a university is to help them graduate with connections, is to help them kind of graduate with the opportunity to get a job here. And so my question is kind of, how do you market on behalf of others?
On behalf of others, you said?
Yes. That's kind of dangerous because, and then everyone goes to that same connection. You could ruin that connection for yourself because they might be overwhelmed. So it's better that you teach them how to cold DM and talk to people than it is for you to always do, oh, it's time.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you tried reaching out to like orgs and like initiative in games? I feel like maybe it could be a way you could like get in contact with more people, just like reaching out to non-profits who are actually looking out for like if they are creating this type of event where they actually want to help people find mentors and things like that, I think it could be a way where you can, let's say you're 30, you can tell them, oh, we have 30 people and they want to connect and they want to find mentors in the industry to enter it and things like that. They could put you in direct contact with people who are super interested and are looking for mentees and things like that.
Thank you guys so much.
And thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate